Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear. In a horror story, the victim keeps asking why, but there can be no explanation, and there shouldn't be one. The unanswered mystery is what stays with us the longest, and it's what we'll remember in the end. My name is A.Wake. I'm a writer.
A.Wake has been in my backlog for years now, having never had the means to discover what this work of fiction held before because I didn't own an Xbox or a PC in 2010, upon the year the game was released. And now that I have, I'm so glad that I did. A.Wake is a writer.
Was a successful writer, but that was a long time ago. I hadn't been able to write a word in 2 years, not since my last book.
Well, he was a writer. Struggling with writer's block, him and his wife Alice go on a much-needed vacation to the scenic mountain town of Bright Falls. With its lush forests, friendly locals, exotic birds. There's no escaping the fact that Twin Peaks, Twilight Zone, and other shows and movies hold a lot of influence to A.Wake, from the town of Bright Falls itself with its logging and mining community to its overall aesthetic and the crazy cast of characters, like the Lamp Lady, brothers Odin and Thor, a highlight of the game for me personally, and Barry Wheeler, A.Wake's over-the-top hilarious agent, even Wake himself.
What, you shot a guy and his body just disappeared? When was the last time you slept? What, are you high? Have you been drinking? No.
It's not surprising though, given that A.Wake itself is formatted like a TV series. Each level, chapter, or episode in this case is prefaced with a previously on and ends with an end of episode XX. There was even a miniseries prequel to A.Wake titled Bright Falls. It's quite fitting given the nature that A.Wake is like a TV series, and the show Bright Falls is quite good itself. You can still find the entire thing on YouTube. It runs about roughly 30 minutes long. But Alice and Alan head to Bright Falls. The story begins to unfold.
I came to Bright Falls with my wife, Alice.
Thank you for coming here with me. I thought maybe you could write here.
I don't want to hear it! God damn it, Alice!
Now, she's missing.
Alice? Alice?
I woke up behind the wheel of a crashed car. I'm missing a week. I was attacked by shadowy men straight from a nightmare.
He discovers pages of a manuscript he can't remember writing, but each page seems to be coming true.
The air in the visitor center was heavy with an awful smell, as if some rotten drowned thing had crawled up from its grave. Rusty kept coughing blood. My eyes were drawn to the twisted shape of his broken leg. The attack had been vicious. Max whined in his cage. Rusty's eyes were wild with fear and terror. He gasped. Mr. Wake, it happened just the way it was on that page.
The monsters and events he's created unfold before his very eyes. Now Alan has to find Alice, recover his memory and the manuscript to hopefully find where she is.
No! No! No!
A.Wake, if you can't tell by now, is a horror thriller shooter. A dark presence stalks the night, trying to stop you in your tracks. The enemies you encounter are the Taken, townsfolk possessed by the dark presence, very reminiscent of the Evil Dead series. Later on, you run into possessed cars and objects, clearly an ode to Stephen King and his works. Your main weapon against this darkness is of course light. A flashlight will become your best friend as you blow away Taken with your standard revolver. Shotgun. hunting rifle. And flare gun. You even get throwable flares and flashbangs for good measure, and honestly some of these fights end up looking amazing. I'm proud of Remedy for finding a way to integrate standard checkpoints and waypoints as a source of light. It's simple but very effective and adds to the immersion the game creates. And immersive it is. Lighting, no surprise, is a big part of the game. From just the simple shine of your flashlight to the fog-laden forests you trudge through in the gloomy night. There's even a few daytime segments that look stunning. Even for a game that came out in 2010, A.Wake still shines. It's a tense experience still, however. A.Wake, as I said, is a horror game and a very underrated one. I'd even throw it in the ring with the likes of Dead Space and Condemned Criminal Origins. It's that scary sometimes. The enemy encounters never stop feeling tense either, because you die so quickly, and they are unforgiving. You do get power moments with a few team-ups later on, and it's a good break from the tension, but those moments are few and far between. But nothing is perfect. A.Wake has a problem of being able to spot the gameplay loop early. You can tell the moment you step off a ledge and enter this big open area that a fight will occur, or when you find a lot of ammo and supplies in a small area, you are about to be surrounded. The dark presence that hunts you sends winds howling. That signal means to ready up for a fight and hurry, because it won't stop until you leave the area. There is some minor pop-in as well that, although not game-breaking, is a bit distracting. The slower moments, even on the highest settings, the pop-in is still pretty ridiculous. I have a 1070 and an 8700, and this pop-in is just, oh man, it's in and out, just never stops. It was supposed to get patched out, apparently, but they never did, so now we're stuck with it. If you do know a fix for this, please comment below and let me know. Perhaps the biggest flaw of A.Wake is that it all feels really samey way too early. The setting of a forested mountain town is interesting, but all the levels blend together. There is some other areas to break up the routine, however, like an abandoned mine, an abandoned car junkyard, an abandoned logging factory, and perhaps my favorite section, an abandoned farm with the coolest part of perhaps the entire game. You do get some collectibles to gather, like manuscript pages and also coffee thermoses, but that's roughly it. Remedy outdid themselves with A.Wake. Being the makers of the Max Payne series, I wouldn't expect anything less. There is even a cool Easter egg for Max Payne fans found in the start of episode 2.
Laying here in the snow while the lurid chain of scenes that had led me here kept playing in my head.
A.Wake took me 20 hours according to Steam to finish. That includes the 2 bonus episodes, The Signal and The Writer, which cap off A.Wake as a perfect icing for this cake. A.Wake did get an expansion as well, American Nightmare. I'll be talking about that in another video. A.Wake in 2019 still holds up today, as it should. It's standard over-the-shoulder shooting fare like we've seen a million times before, and that gameplay still proves to be solid. Its atmosphere is just as tense as ever, and the daytime sections really do mellow you out just for a bit before you get plunged back into the darkness. I would say if you haven't experienced A.Wake yet, add it to your backlog.